the sleepy, almost surreal town of Hollow Creek, I was just another face in the crowd. John, the librarian. On the surface, I was a man of routine, a man of order, a man who lived by the Dewey Decimal System. But what the townspeople didn't know was that I harbored an insatiable, almost obsessive curiosity for the occult. It was a curiosity that was about to lead me into a room in the library that defied all logic, a room that should have never existed, a room that was about to become my living nightmare. The night was one of those nights that felt almost apocalyptic. The rain was coming down in torrents, each drop a miniature explosion upon impact, as if the heavens were angry. The wind howled through the trees, creating a symphony of natural terror. Alone in the library, I was in the basement, cataloguing old manuscripts that hadn't seen the light of day in decades, maybe even centuries. That's when I stumbled upon it. A book so ancient, so worn, it seemed as if it could disintegrate at any moment. As I carefully opened its brittle pages, the room's temperature plummeted, as if the air itself was trying to escape from the book's contents. My heart began to race uncontrollably, each beat echoing in the cavernous silence like a drumbeat signaling the approach of something malevolent. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine, as if a spectral hand had lightly grazed it. The atmosphere grew thick, heavy, laden with a sense of impending doom that was almost palpable. The book seemed to have a life of its own, pulling me into its labyrinthine text. My eyes widened as they fell upon an incantation written in a language that was unfamiliar, but oddly comprehensible. My lips began to move of their own accord, whispering the arcane words in a voice that didn't seem entirely my own. The room responded with a violent shudder, as if the very foundations of the building were rebelling against the forces I was unleashing. The bookshelves rattled as if in agony, ancient tomes tumbling to the ground like fallen soldiers. The lights flickered, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance in delight at my growing terror. Then, as if obeying some unseen command, a hidden door that I had never noticed before creaked open with a groan of ancient wood and rusted metal. Beyond it lay a room that was an abyss of impenetrable darkness, a darkness so complete it seemed to absorb all light and hope. My heart was now a frenzied drum, each beat a desperate plea for sanity, for escape, for a return to the mundane world I had so foolishly left behind. Summoning every last shred of courage, I stepped into the room, my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a blade. What awaited me was a sight so horrifying it defied all comprehension. A swirling vortex of shadows that seemed to be alive, writhing and twisting, as if in agony. At its center stood a figure that was a grotesque parody of a human being, its features distorted into an expression of pure malevolence. "Welcome, John," it hissed, its voice a nightmarish blend of human and inhuman sounds, a cacophony that seemed to resonate with the very depths of my soul. "You freed me, and now you shall take my place." A wave of dread washed over me, so intense it felt like a physical blow. My knees buckled, and I had to grip the doorframe to keep from collapsing. My mind was a whirlpool of terror and confusion, struggling to make sense of the incomprehensible. I felt as if I was teetering on the edge of an abyss, staring into the malevolent eyes of my own damnation. In that moment of paralyzing fear, a flicker of desperate hope ignited within me. My eyes darted to the book, still lying open on a table just outside the room. With a surge of adrenaline that seemed to come from some primal, untapped reservoir of survival instinct, I lunged for it. My fingers trembled as they flipped through the ancient pages, frantically searching for the incantation that would undo what I had so foolishly done. The room convulsed as if in the throes of a demonic possession, the vortex of shadows wobbling and distorting, as if struggling to maintain its form. The figure at its center let out a scream so terrible it seemed to shatter the very fabric of reality. With a cry that was a mix of triumph and desperation, I found the incantation and began to recite it, my voice rising to a fevered pitch. As I spoke the final words, the vortex imploded with a deafening roar, collapsing in on itself like a dying star. The room was plunged into darkness, and then, as suddenly as it had all begun, it was over. The room was just a room, empty and benign. I slammed the door shut and locked it, my hands shaking so violently I could barely insert the key into the lock. I took the book and threw it into the library's incinerator, watching as its ancient pages were consumed by the flames, its ashes carried away by the building's ventilation system as if being claimed by the winds of fate. But even now, as I sit alone in the library, surrounded by the comforting normality of books and silence, I can't escape the feeling that something has been irrevocably changed. I know that somewhere, in a room that shouldn't exist, something waits, biding its time until the next unwitting soul stumbles upon that accursed book. And sometimes, when the night is at its darkest, and the wind howls through the trees like the cries of the damned, I hear it whisper my name, a chilling reminder of the razor-thin line between curiosity and madness.